we're doing things a little different here. Turns out we are not actually in Crested Butte, Colorado, but I'm very happy to be here in Lebanon, New Hampshire at Völkl's new US headquarters. Our work here is to talk about some of the specific models in the Völkl line, and we'll talk about the 22-23 lineup. And I'm going to be doing this with Ivar Dahl and Chris McKenna. So before we get going here, Ivar, why don't you tell us a little bit about your pretty extensive background in the ski industry? And it probably would take us about an hour to go through every single job I think you've held, but talk a little bit about some of the different jobs that you have held, because I think it's pretty interesting how many different sides of this sport you've been involved in.
Gosh, I think to be able to state a reason why I'm in the industry, I think you need to look back at just the history before I actually had a job. Grew up ski racing in New Hampshire, skiing and ski racing. Nice blend, not too focused on one or the other, but just enjoying the mountain at Cannon Mountain, which I think one of your friends is very fond of at the corporate office.
Yep.
Met my wife at University of New Hampshire, married my sweetheart and teammate, and from there we wound up following her to Park City, Utah, where I coached for 2 years. And in 1996 was brought back east to be a tech rep in the New England territory. And from there, I've had experiences working with race departments, product management, sales at a variety of different manufacturers, which I think is kind of cool and unique because it's given me the ability to work with French, Austrian, Italian, and German manufacturing. So it's kind of cool to see the differentiations and the uniquenesses of all of them. And currently, in the position I'm in now, is the Volkl sales manager for the US. In addition to that, it's kind of cool too, I think the way we have things set up in our company is that it's not just sales, it's a brand manager position as well, being able to work with the other entities in the office and really being all in at every level.
Chris, try to top that.
Got it. The Völkl product manager for the US, similar to Ivar, come from a ski racing background, so grew up, went to ski academy, skied at Middlebury College, and then from Middlebury started off at Völkl. So been with Völkl now 5 years. First couple years was out in Intermountain, living in Park City, Utah, and now back working out of the office here in Lebanon.
You guys have both been around the block a bit, and so we're gonna, maybe we'll test you a little bit today, see, what you actually know about some of these things, and we'll get into the weeds as we like to do. But before we go there, maybe we do actually talk a little bit about Völkl's history and heritage. This is a pretty significant season we're coming up on, right? In terms of brand history.
Yeah, we're celebrating a birthday, 100-year birthday. So 1923, Völkl was established. And since then, over the past 100 years, has been creating amazing products, technically innovative, from our headquarters in Straubing, Germany, which is in the Bavaria region, which that's been one of the cooler things, being able to go back and visit the factory and visit the offices, is that you can feel it. Germans are proud people, and they really are kind of technical and precise. And, being in southern Germany and be able to tap the Alps and the Garmisch area in particular, is really cool, and we're psyched about celebrating our 100th anniversary.
Yeah. And Ivar, you've been with the company about that long, right? I mean, it seems like
yes.
Yeah. So
Yep.
1923, 24, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. And I think for any company to have that kind of a legacy, pretty interesting. And now I think our work is to sort of look at okay, so we've been around 100 years. Let's see what we got going on today. So I think what I'd like to have you guys do is let's kind of do the overview. There is a full range of skis for kind of every aspect of skiing. So I'd like to hear how you guys sort of talk about that and break down the different categories.
What's really cool about the Völkl collection is it's super comprehensive. We have junior skis in our collection, all the way up to true World Cup FIS level products that really meet the demands of those, special athletes. But between those two categories is really where our bread and butter is, and we divide that into specific families. We have an on-snow or on-piste family, which is called the Deacon Collection and the Flare Collection. We also have a free ride collection that we actually break down into two categories, free ride and pure free ride. And that's going to talk about the free ride collection in the Titanal Frame skis and the pure free ride in our Blaze family. Then we also have a pretty unique collection in the Revolt series, which is a little bit different than the other collections where specifically the athletes are in charge there. And that Revolt collection is really, we call it built together, working with our product engineers, our product developers, and our team manager. Our athletes are the ones that actually come up with the shapes, the lengths, the side cuts, the constructions. And it's really, pretty cool that we have that type of interaction because we've got some of the best athletes in the world that are able to give us the ability to make the best product for our customers.
Where do we want to go to start diving in? We're not going to be looking at every single ski in the 22-23 lineup. We'd be here for a long time. So I do want to have you guys pull out a few of the highlights, and then we'll dive into the weeds a little bit. So Chris, where do you think we should start?
I think in the free ride Titanal Frame category that Ivar was talking about there. So for us, that's the Kendo, which is brand new for 22-23. And then our M6 Mantra 102, and then Katana is also in that category. Yeah. So I think starting there, and then we'll get into Blaze as well, talking about a bit more of the lightweight free ride.
The Kendo has been around for over a decade. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the recent iterations of the Kendo and kind of its development to get us to this current ski?
Yeah, so the Kendo's been a staple of the Völkl collection now for a long time. The last couple iterations, we've made major changes in it. So 1920, the Kendo got a full update, moving away from the classic 2 full sheets of Titanal, longer radius. And that's when we launched 3D radius for the first time and put Titanal Frame into the Kendo for the first time. Previously it had been in the M5 Mantra. And then for this brand new model for 22-23, it gets all of our 3 core technologies. So that's tailored carbon tip, tailored Titanal Frame, and then our 3D radius as well. So all of those technologies working really well together is the main point there too.
Maybe we should slow down and take these 3 technologies sort of apart, though I know it is a talking point around here. We really like the combination of those things. But can you break that down a little bit for somebody wondering, should I really care about these 3 things?
Let's start tailored Titanal Frames. That's probably the most straightforward and visible. So when we started with Titanal Frame, moving away from the 2 full sheets of Titanal, as I said, so now I have 3 independent pieces of Titanal on the ski. So you can see here on the Kendo, first piece in the tip of the ski wraps around, and then you have a mirroring piece in the tail of the ski, and then a full sheet underfoot there. So the tailored Titanal Frame is varying the amount of metal in each size of the ski. So you can see where it cuts in here. In the shorter lengths, that's going to be much lower down. So just tailoring the flex of the ski for each size.
So that is what we're calling tailored Titanal Frame. Okay. Where are we going from there?
Next, we'll jump into 3D radius. Probably a bit more complicated maybe to understand concept, just because it's a harder one to see in the ski, but when you're skiing on the ski, it's probably the easiest technology in the ski to feel. So 3D radius is having 3 different radii in the ski. So you have a different radius in the tip, different radius underfoot, and different radius in the tail. So shorter radius underfoot, longer in the tip and tail of the ski. What's really important about that is that it helps all different levels of skiers, and overall it just makes the ski more fun and way more versatile as well. And thirdly, I'd say in there, maybe the biggest point of 3D radius is that it makes the ski easier to ski. So just on harder snow, it makes it really easy to ski varying radius. So if you're really pressuring the ski, tipping up on an edge, you can engage that shorter radius. But if you want to make longer skis, not really bending the ski, just kind of riding radius of the ski, it stays super stable in that longer 30-meter GS type turn. A lot of people have probably experienced if you're skiing a slalom ski and you start skiing GS turns on it, you can do that, but the ski starts to get really twitchy.
Yeah.
So the 3D radius, the longer radius, and the tip. So on the Kendo here, like I said, I should probably put some numbers to it too. So the 177 Kendo is going to be 16 meters underfoot, 29 in the tip, and then 25 in the tail. So when you start skiing those longer radius turns, that almost 30-meter tip radius allows you to ski a bigger radius turn comfortably. And then at slower speeds, it's still super maneuverable with that easier 16-meter radius ski. There's also some advantage there too, to off-piste skiing, where that longer radius makes it so the ski cuts through crud or wind-blown snow really smoothly and isn't wanting to dive or catch up the hill. So you'll see also different applications to 3D radius in different models. So our more off-piste orientated skis, you'll see a bigger range, so longer tip radiuses, upwards of 40 meters, just to help that tip track and less deflection when you're skiing off-piste.
Ivar, who is the more sensitive ski tester, you or Chris?
I think Chris likes to dive into the minutia a little bit more than I do.
Okay.
I'm probably more about the feel.
Okay.
And that's not taking anything away from Chris, because he's probably the most beautiful skier we have in the company.
Wow,
He's able to
look at
tip
that.
it up on edge and really feel things, but I'm more about the experience, I think.
Yeah.
So when I was listening to Chris talk about 3D radius, I start going through my head and thinking about where I'm at on the hill and how it applies. And regardless of snow conditions, average snow conditions, bank turns going around, I'm going to use Cannon again, super old school layout on the hill. There's 13 turns on upper Cannon, and they're all twisting and kind of abrupt turns, but with 3D radius, I can come in, roll it up on edge, press to get that middle, get the drift on the tip, press in the middle of the ski to get it to come around for that quick turn reaction and release with the tail that's a little bit longer radius. Cruise down, get onto some exit upper Cannon onto, say, bypass, which is a long flat that you get in your tuck, and you try to, mimic the old World Cup trail. And at that situation, because of 3D radius, I feel like the ski's super comfortable and mellow. It's not twitchy, it's not overreacting, so you can get that speed, you can go in a straight line, and it feels comfortable in those situations. And then as you roll into the bottom of the hill, where it gets steeper and more aggressive and a little bit more open, you can vary that turn shape. You can bust out 22, 23 meter turns, or quicken it up to a 16 meter radius. So it just gives you so much versatility. And I think that's the key word to really explain what 3D gives you, versatility.
Ivar, you and I were talking too about certain scenarios on the mountain where things can get pretty consequential when a ski, say, hooks up when you don't want it to. That's specifically what you and I were talking about. And I would say that with my time on the Kendo, I think it's certainly true of the Mantra 102 as well. Those two skis, in hearing what Chris has said and what you just said, I do think that that is a characteristic, is that neither ski surprises you like in a bad way, right? And so I think I agree with your talking about the comfort level on the skis and the versatility of them. And again, in certain situations, like I don't want to get surprised right now because that could get bad quickly. And I think that is, especially maybe with those two skis, which is interesting because one is 88 underfoot, and then we go to a 102.
Well, I think that's why we offer, a bunch of models in that family of freeride skis.
Yeah.
So you have that 88 underfoot Kendo that is arguably one of the best all mountain, all country skis. It can be East Coast, it can be West Coast, it can, it's just super versatile in that regard. But if you're in a situation that you were talking about, Jonathan, where you're up in some gnarly conditions and you're looking for a ski to react a little differently than what you'd expect on piste or inbounds, then you would move to a Mantra 102 that's got a longer radius tip and tail,
Yeah.
a little longer radius underfoot, which will give you the stability without the hook that you might be wanting to avoid in those situations.
Yeah. So we've gone through 2 of the technologies. What's our third?
Yeah, so the third technology in this category is our tailored carbon tip. So that's just going to be the carbon you can see actually in the tip of the ski. And the really nice part about that feature, instead of just a full cloth of carbon in there, we're able to stitch it in exactly where you want it in the ski. So you'll see that technology actually throughout our collection, whether it's in the Deacon series, now in our Race Tigers, and then in the Titanal Frame category here as well. So able to tailor the application of it for each category. And what it's really important for is tying all 3 technologies together, but specifically is what the tailored carbon tip does is allow you to keep that torsional rigidity and reliability in the tip of the ski with softening up some other areas. And so why having a reliable tip super important is that's just your first point of contact with the snow. So that's what's giving you your feedback of what type of snow conditions you're in. So having your tip be reliable, react the same way every time, super important for just having that feel in the snow. And then with the carbon in the tip there, allows us to take out some metal in the ski, thus the tailored Titanal frame, and then also just soften up longitudinally the flex of the ski. So making the new Kendo more approachable, easier to ski, more dynamic with that softer overall flex, but still keeping that performance reliability that the Kendo's been known for so many years.
How do things change up, or what stays the same when we start going to different lengths of the Kendo?
Yeah, so the biggest change when different lengths of the ski is the tailored Titanal frame. So just varying the amount of metal in each size of the ski, as well as the radius. So the shorter sizes have a shorter radius. So just giving the ski the appropriate feel and flex for the skier.
Okay, so well then, I guess it's mantra time.
Mantra time.
What should we know?
Mantra, similar to the Kendo, has been a staple of the Völkl collection for a long time, and actually launched this all-mountain freeride category. So had the Mantra for over 15 years. Similar to the Kendo, though, has gotten a lot of key updates the last couple years. In the M6 that we have here was the first ski that got all 3 of those technologies. So tailored Titanal frame, 3D radius, and tailored carbon tips. And being with that 96 underfoot, I'd say is the core all-mountain category there with that mid-90 underfoot.
And we've seen that mantra get a little narrower, get a little wider. So we're currently in the M6 at 96 under, we're calling it. Okay.
Yep.
And then do we want to say more about the M6, or are we ready to talk about the 102?
Let's talk about the 102. I hear that's your favorite ski.
I do like that ski.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Can you call it your favorite, or is it just your Volkl favorite?
I mean, we don't really talk about favorites.
Okay, gotcha.
And I need more time on it, right?
Okay.
But I am a big fan of the previous 102. That's a ski that I think works really well at a place like Crested Butte when we're talking about negotiating pretty steep, techie terrain.
Yep.
And so with that said, let's talk about some of the updates.
So it got, in terms of technology, same updates as the Kendo. So previously it had Titanal frame and 3D radius, but now it gets a tailored Titanal frame, so varying the amount of metal in each size there. Keeps the 3D radius, but similar to the Kendo, just shorter radius, and also getting the tailored carbon tips. But most importantly, what that does for actually the feel of the ski, with the 102, it just makes it way more approachable than the previous 102. So the 102 before was an awesome ski, I'd say kind of your all-mountain weapon, but definitely stiff and a demanding ski. This new one still has that element of performance to it, but it's just way more dynamic, way more approachable. So I think is a ski for a bigger audience.
Yeah, and I think approachable is sometimes overused, but it's applicable.
You stole my line. You stole my line, but it's okay.
But
You
it's
can
still
say it.
applicable.
Yeah.
And again, the DNA that runs through our brand here at Völkl is, former racers, used to stiffer skis, used to rolling it up on edge and having it engaged tip to tail. And I think the biggest difference with the new Mantra 102 is that you can vary those edge angles, and you can smear into a turn or smear out of a turn, but still roll it up in the middle of the turn and get that edge angle and that precision you're looking for. Where the old, it would be really hard to roll it up, roll off, and roll back on. So now you've got something that can really allow you a more versatile feel and a more comfortable feel and have more fun.
I think that was very well said, and I agree with you. That previous 102, it's a pretty big, heavy ski. But some of our reviewers would be quick to say, but once you got it going, even a little bit, once you got it going, it pivoted nicely. It is a smooth ski. But to your point, starts and stops, once you have to shut things down, right? Or like you scrub speed in a big way, and then you're trying to yank things back in the opposite direction. I think that is when you felt that old ski quite a bit. Yep. I also heard that the reason you guys made it more accessible is for Chris, that Chris was having some trouble, on that ski.
His turns are even prettier on the new 102 than they were on the old 102.
I was going to say,
I'd say the old 102 is one of my favorite skis.
I was going to say, I skied with Chris a bit, but not really, because he was pretty much gone, pretty fast. So, I tried to ski with Chris, but
just going back to the speed changes there, I think that is one of the most important aspects of the 3D radius is when you're in a situation where you have to slow down or release the tail of the ski. Having that longer radius in the tail just makes it easier to release the ski. Or if you're just smearing a turn, if you don't have the super fine feeling of being able to manipulate the edge, it just makes it much easier to do that.
With the 102, it shares the same technologies as the Kendo, which we talked about, but if you want to talk a little bit more in the case of the 102, so about 3D radius, et cetera, these are still relevant things we ought to know about the new 102, yeah?
Yeah, I think in summary, we referenced at how the technologies work together. The most important aspect is keeping the performance of the ski, which Völkl's been known for a long time, but making the skis easier and more approachable. And some of the specific ways that is, as I said before, you have the tailored carbon tip, which allows us to kind of soften up the flex of the ski, but still keep that rigidity in the tip and reliability there. The other component there is 3D radius comes into play. So you have the longer tip radius, limiting the amount of deflection in the ski. So again, allowing you to have a little softer feel to it, more approachable, more dynamic flex, as well as the tailored Titanal frame. Again, taking out metal from the ski, making it more dynamic, easier to ski, easier to get into the ski at slower speeds, but keeping that performance element and reliability of the ski. So you have all those technologies work together and benefit each other.
Cool. What's going on with the Blaze series? What is it for, and how does it differentiate from sort of the Mantra family? And here's my 18-part question. I think to help people, hopefully in this part of the conversation, will help people understand whether they ought to be maybe looking more at the Blaze side of things or at one of the Mantras.
We've talked about it initially. You say Volkl, and sometimes you feel like, you're feeling like a stronger, heavier, precise, demanding ski. And I think that is true for a lot of our collection. And that's why the Blaze family came into fruition, because we were looking for something that hopefully we were able to give the end user a more playful ski, a more intuitive ski, a softer ski, and kind of break that stigma that Völkl has. And that's really where the Blaze family came in. And it's pretty diverse in terms of its waist widths, its use. We start at a 106 and go down to an 86. Currently, it's going to be a family of skis that we will continue to develop out. and really how it feels to the skier, it's a more relaxed ski. It's an easier skiing Volkl ski that has a lot of uses. In the 106, you can have your best powder day up in Little Cottonwood, Big Cottonwood canyons. I had that experience this past winter, where I was just blown away. It floats. It floats. Yeah. It's smooth. It has all the attributes you're looking for in an easier setup. And that holds true down through the 94 and the 86 as well. And again, waist widths, kind of what direction you're going to be skiing, or which you're going to more common snow types that you're looking for. So you have options there.
As Ivar said, the Blaze has been the most exciting category for sure for us the last couple of years, as we've been able to target a different type of skier than we historically have with our freeride collection. And also it's been a fun process for us of seeing how versatile the skis are and all their different capabilities of the ski. And definitely, yeah, significantly lighter than the Titanal Frame skis.
So just to be clear, in terms of how Volkl is positioning the Blaze skis, I don't necessarily hear you talking about dedicated touring skis, dedicated backcountry skis. What we use the term 50-50. If you want to ski it a bit inbounds, if you do want to go, so do some chairlift laps, go skin the next day, we're positioning this as that kind of do everything. Is that right? How are you all talking about it?
That's a category I'd say we try to be careful when we're talking about it to make sure we don't pigeonhole it as just a 50-50 ski. Where that it has that ability, it's light enough that it tours really well, but it skis so well that it can be your resort ski if that's all you're doing. Okay,
so that's what I wanted to clarify for people. If you are like, I am not looking for a heavy ski, I like the feel of a lighter, quicker, more nimble ski, that's where you would be telling people, even if you will never walk uphill with this thing, this is a series you ought to check out. You point them to the Blaze.
Yeah, that's the priority or focus of it, and then it is light enough as an add-on or attribute if you want to tour with it.
If you're jumping on a Mantra M6, for instance, you might be, if you started at 9 in the morning, you might be a little tired at 1 o'clock, right? Because you're putting in, you're getting out a lot of energy and a lot of precision. With the Blaze family, it's an all-day ski. You can start and finish the day. It's easier. It's more forgiving. It's just more fun, because
different fun.
Different type of fun where you can go all day. It's like you're all day, and I see that on the hill with people, because every time I'm on the hill, I'm doing a color count. When I'm in the lift line or I'm riding up the chair, I'm looking down and seeing what people are on. And when you take a Blaze 86, for instance, and maybe a little bit skewed more East Coast, just see people with smiles on their face coming down the hill, and they're coming down the hill. But if they wanted to jump out and try something different, then they have that option too.
These are tricky things, I think, to talk about, and I do think it is worth saying. Like, we all kind of have our preferences, and I think that's important for everyone watching this to remember. There are expert skiers who absolutely don't want that more traditional heavyweight feel to a ski. I might not agree with some of them, but that's where we're just trying to clarify things for people. And so I do think it would be a mistake if someone's like, okay, so if I'm more of an intermediate skier, I should be thinking Blaze instead of Mantra. And I'd say it depends.
It's a style of skiing.
It's a style.
It's a style of skiing, in my opinion.
Let's say just a bit more maybe about teasing out then. We've talked about sort of the feel, the style differences. Say a little bit then more about some of the construction of the Blaze.
Yeah, so the Blaze has way less metal in the ski than our Titanal Frame series skis, and that's where the significant weight reduction comes from. So in the Blaze, the only metal in the ski is Titanal plate underfoot, so just giving you a little more edge grip underfoot as well as a mounting plate. But the most important aspect of the ski is our full tip to tail wood core, so wood all the way into the tip of the ski. Don't have any type of insert in the skis. And then also suspension tips and tails. So you'll see in the tip of the ski an insert in there, and that's just helping dampen the ski when you're cutting through crud. So again, similar to 3D radius, helping with the deflection of the ski. And I think a really unique aspect of the Blaze, and also with our Titanal Frame skis, though, is you can see all the technology in the ski. So you can see the wood core, you can see that Titanal plate, you can see the suspension tips and tails. And also has the 3D radius in the Blaze 106. It's going to be geared more towards a bit off-piste skiing, so longer in the tip, so approaching 40 meters, so 36 meter radius in the 179. As you move through the Blaze collection, so down to our 86, the tip and tail radius is going to be shorter, more similar to that Kendo feel, as it's going to be your kind of 50-50 ski all over the place ski. When we say lighter, it's a couple 100 grams lighter overall, so you're
Than a
Titanal Frame
Yep.
for our collection.
Yep.
So Blaze 96 is going to come in at 1,560 grams, where a M6 Mantra is going to be 2,070 grams in the comparable length of 177 to 179.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, I think we're going to say that our work here for now is done. But I think that was a nice, we got some history of the company, and we talked about some of the iterations of some of the skis, and we did a nice overview, I think, of the Völkl lineup for 22, 23. We jumped into some of the details on a new Kendo and updated Mantra 102. I hope we get to ski again this coming season, and Ivar, for the first time.
Yeah.
Stop dodging. Stop
I hear
avoiding
you.
me.
I hear you. I'll be there.
Maybe a can.
Good excuse. Yeah, a cannon or a crest butte, one or two.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can get some hard snow turns in this winter.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks for visiting New Hampshire.
Good to be here.